And I would like to talk to you about vocational rehabilitation. So that's getting people back into work or volunteering. I work for an organisation called Backup, and we are based in the UK. We have lots of organisations in the UK supporting people with spinal cord injury, and we are the second largest. So a little bit of context. So we have about 40,000 people with spinal cord injury in the UK, and roughly 30 to 40% of working age adults return to work after an injury, which is not a high number, although this might be slightly higher for very incomplete injuries. Although this is only for people who are going through specialist spinal rehabilitation, and we estimate that about 60% of spinal cord injuries in the UK receive specialist spinal cord injury intervention from a spinal unit. And we also know from the wider population in the UK that returning to work after a period of not working is really difficult. And disability aside, if you are out of work for 2 years or more, you are unlikely to return to work. Globally, the reasons that people with spinal cord injury don't go back to work are things such as transportation, health and physical limitations, lack of work experience, lack of educational training. You know, if you can't get children with spinal cord injury into good schools, they don't go to university, they're unlikely to get onto jobs. Physical and architectural barriers, environment not being accessible, and also discrimination by employers. And this is real discrimination as well as perceived discrimination. So people are afraid to apply for a job in case they are discriminated against. But also loss of benefits. So in many countries, there's this way up of, if I go back to work, then I don't get social security from the government. What happens if my job doesn't work? What do I do? I'll lose my house. Oh my God, let's not try this. And because of lots of these factors, people have very low confidence often to try to return to the workplace. So this is my organisation that I work for. This is to give you a context of us in comparison to other organisations. We have 32 employees and 400 volunteers, and we turn over, so we raise and we spend roughly £1.8 million annually. So, I am the only person in my organisation that works for getting people back to work, and we do a couple of different things, and we've also been building a strategy and thinking about how can we get better and get more people back to work. So one of the things we do is we have online resources. These are videos. The reason that we chose to do videos is they're engaging. When people are first injured, they might have lots of medication and they've got lots of things going on in their brain, so we needed to give information in a fast, engaging, exciting way to keep them interested. Over a period of about 4 months, we get just over 1,000 people visiting, and the page that we get the most visits to are people returning to the same employer. Could I have some water, please? I'll just have the bottle. Yeah, cool. Thank you very much. Okay. And here is one of the videos. Can we have some sound, please?
3 children who needed feeding, so I had a bit of a word to myself and thought I'd better get back together.
I remember waking up after my operation, and that was sort of the first question on my mind, was whether I could still be a doctor.
So before my accident, I was a car mechanic, couldn't do the work anymore, and I was left without a job.
So I was very lucky that I'd already had a creative job. I could use my eyes, and therefore as a photographer I could go back to doing that. I just needed to work out how.
I saw there was a gap in the market. I thought, what can I do for my budget? So I came up with the idea to do the mobile business.
I think it's really important before you start to really have a look at what support is out there. I was pleasantly surprised by how much support you can get.
Access to Work for me is a great resource. They will supply you with equipment. They will look at funding a support work fee to help you to and from work.
I was still incredibly anxious about actually getting a job. Placements were okay and the uni was okay, but in the real world, who's going to employ me? I kept thinking that. But I went on a Back Up to Work course and it was groundbreaking.
You know, going back to employment is great because it improves my own well-being, knowing that I'm giving back and setting a good example for my children. It also led to my wife being able to go back to work.
The patience of everybody that was training me was brilliant. A lot of people might have taken 3 days of training. It took me 3 months, but I got there.
So by doing things online, we can reach a much wider amount of people, and they can access the services whenever they want at a time that suits them. What else do we do? We also provide telephone support. So people can phone me in the office, and by providing telephone support, we can give individualized support and the support that people actually are requesting. But also this has been really important for us to build our strategy and work out what people need, because we can understand the barriers that people are facing and then build further services that are going to meet those needs on a larger scale. And last year, I supported 39 service users by telephone, and 7 of them are now back in employment. And here we have a couple of quotes. A few months ago, you gave me some interview tips before I had a fairly big interview. I said I'll let you know how I got on. And after 3 months and 6 interviews, I have a formal offer. So thank you. My accident really knocked my confidence. Your advice was very much appreciated. We also run a virtual 3-day course, and that's held on Zoom. And the course is about upskilling service users with how to write a CV, how to do the interview, how to maybe disclose their disability. It gives them confidence by meeting other people in a similar situation, as well as people who have a spinal cord injury and have got back to work, to give them the confidence to try that. In 2021, we supported 14 individuals, and 80% felt more confident about being able to manage returning to work. And one of the quotes is, "Thank you so much for the wonderful 3 days we've just had. The course has really opened my eyes and helped me into a very positive mindset." One of the reasons I set out this slide like this is because I want to tell you what we do, but I also wanted to explain that before we do any intervention, we think about what are we going to measure? So how are we, in a very simple way, for example, does the course meet your expectations or exceed your expectations? And we also make sure we take the time to, after we have supported a service user, get quotes and their understanding of the course so that we can improve what we're doing, but it also really helps when we're finding the money. So it helps us to be able to go back to somebody who has given us funding, but it also helps us in the future to look for funding to say, look at this amazing work. We've got, numbers and we've got lovely quotes. Please give us the money. And it really helps us grow our services in the future. So on top of the online course, we also run a in-person careers fair, and this is a chance for people to do practice interviews in person, meet other people who are in a similar situation, as well as meeting recruiters, so they can meet people who are looking to employ people from a diverse background in their workforce. And we ran our careers fair just in April, and we already have placed one of those 9 individuals in full-time employment, which is fantastic. It gives people sort of new perspectives on getting back to work through the panel discussions, as well as giving people the opportunity to discuss in detail their particular situations and come up with a plan of how they would like to return to employment. So we want to grow as an organisation, and we want to support more people back into work. And I was given the objective by my organisation that they want us to be a real leader in getting people back to work by 2025. So I needed to come up with a strategy and a plan of how am I going to get more people with spinal cord injury back to work. So I had to build a strategy. So I did a lot of research, I talked to service users, I looked at lots of published employment and different countries around the world and how they do vocational rehabilitation, and seeing how they went about what they were doing. I talked to staff within my organisation and in the UK. I talked to spinal unit centre staff about their views, and different stakeholders and individuals with experience of returning to work, and asked them lots of questions about how do we think we can get more people back into employment. And so what we found was missing from our current offering is that we're not maximising early intervention. So I said earlier, the longer you're out of work, the more likely it is that you won't return to work, and it's harder to return to work if you haven't been in work for some time. So we need to improve this. And we're not very good at helping individuals who maybe had a very manual labour background, so they were working in construction or a tree surgeon or something like this. To get them back to work was much more difficult. But also we weren't helping people all the way along the journey, and so we didn't know at what point people were falling off their journey to returning to employment, and therefore we need to understand that more so that we can support them to have a successful journey. So what am I going to do over the next couple of years? So firstly, we're going to look at employment advocates. And so this is going to be somebody who is working with people in the spinal units who have an employer that they can return to. So when they were, before they had their accident, or when they had their accident, they had a job, and we're going to try and work with that person and with the employer and get them back to the same employer, possibly a different role. But it's about building confidence in that service user, but also building confidence in the employer that they can have the support they need from the government and different organisations to make that successful. We also are going to try a coaching course. So this is aimed at those people who maybe had manual labour backgrounds or didn't want to go back to the same employment, to help them holistically look at their life and what they want to achieve, and give them the time and space to talk about what they would like to do with their life. Because actually something that I didn't mention, which I should have done, is the reason that I do this and help people back to work is working's really good for you. It's good for both your physical and mental health, and being out of work and not having a job has evidence shows that you're likely to have poor health outcomes, both in terms of mental health but also physical health. And so having a reason to get up in the morning and do something and have structure in your day and skills and use your brain is a good thing and important. We'll also be looking at trying to do job matching. So we'll build relationships with employers and with recruiters so we can get people back into jobs, and that will be focusing a lot on partnerships. And I know that in Knotville, Switzerland, they do lots of job matching and work placements, which are very successful, but are expensive and time-consuming, and so this takes a lot of money. So we will start with the cheaper things and work our way up to proving that we're doing a good job, and then ask for the more expensive options later. So yeah, as I said, that I'll be focusing mainly on an employment advocate, so that early intervention, looking at helping people with new injuries back to the same employer and building relationships with our spinal units. We have 11 spinal units around the UK. And then looking at piloting a coach to work course. Working with individuals who want to go to a different type of employment and a mix of group and one-to-one sessions with volunteers who are upskilled with coaching techniques. So why am I here and why am I telling you this? Well, I want to learn. I want to know what countries have tried to implement different vocational rehabilitation and employment programs. I want to know what worked. I want to know what didn't work. And if you have any advice for me whilst I try and grow employment services in the UK. So please share with me.